Alcohol plays such a massive role in our society that we tend to forget what it actually is. At its core, alcohol is one thing: a nerve and cell poison. When your body breaks down ethanol, it produces a toxic byproduct called acetaldehyde. And that stuff? It attacks your cells from the inside. Now, we've all been there. One drink turns into 5, and the next morning, you wake up with a pounding headache, feeling like absolute garbage. Classic hangover. We've all experienced that. But do you actually know what alcohol does inside your body? What exactly happens to your liver, your brain, your heart? Why does your heart start racing after a night out? I'm not just talking about vague health consequences. I mean the concrete effects, the real changes happening inside you, depending on how much and how often you drink. So let's break it all down right now. Hey, welcome to Your Body's Code. On this channel, we break down exactly what's happening inside your body in a way that actually makes sense. Whether it's nutrition, exercise, or today's topic, the world's most popular poison. If that sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing. It really helps. Now here's a fun statistic. Well, fun. The average person in developed countries consumes the equivalent of about 10 liters of pure alcohol per year. 10 liters of pure ethanol. And look, there's always a reason to raise a glass, right? After work, at a birthday, or just because you're having a nice evening with friends. That's completely understandable, and I'll explain in a moment why we enjoy it so much. But here's the thing we keep forgetting. Alcohol is, first and foremost, a nerve and cell poison. We're literally drinking poison. Cheers. About 1.6 million people between 18 and 65 are considered alcohol dependent, and roughly 6.7 million consume alcohol in amounts that are actively endangering their health. The health consequences include nerve damage, liver damage, and a whole range of psychological disorders. So let's get a bit nerdy for a second. What actually is alcohol? From a chemical perspective, there isn't just one alcohol. There are many types, but the one we drink is called ethanol. It's a colorless, volatile, and highly flammable liquid with a distinctly sharp smell and taste. You've probably noticed that. The stronger the drink, the more you can taste it. That burn? That's the ethanol saying hello. Now here's where it gets interesting. At a concentration of 60 to 70%, ethanol is used as a disinfectant, an antiseptic. And do you know why it works so well as a disinfectant? Because it penetrates the cell walls of bacteria and viruses and destroys their proteins. Let that sink in for a moment. It literally destroys cells. That's why it disinfects. And even though the concentration in your beer or wine is obviously much lower, you can imagine that ethanol doesn't exactly treat your own body cells gently either. So what happens the moment you take a sip? About 2% of the alcohol is absorbed directly through the mucous membranes of your mouth and esophagus, straight into the bloodstream, just from swallowing. The rest, the vast majority, is absorbed through the lining of your stomach and intestines, and released into the blood. And within just a few minutes, this cell poison has distributed itself through your entire bloodstream, including every single organ. It reaches everywhere. Because once alcohol passes through the intestinal wall into the blood, it gets carried to every corner of your body. Peak blood alcohol concentration is typically reached after about 45 to 75 minutes. Now let's talk about the organ that's most sensitive to alcohol: your brain. Even at just 0.2 promille, which is really not much at all, the effects are already noticeable. Ethanol doesn't just affect one single system in your brain. It impacts multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously. And the combined result, depending on how much you drink, includes impaired perception, impaired reaction time, and impaired decision-making. But of course, that's not why people drink. People drink because of the temporary mood-boosting effect, that warm, happy feeling. And there's a very specific reason for that. Ethanol stimulates your body's own opioid, serotonin, and dopamine systems. These three neurotransmitters are responsible for releasing what we call the happiness hormones: serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins. Beyond making you feel good, these hormones also have pain-inhibiting and relaxing effects. two very important functions. But here's the crucial part. These same neurotransmitters play a major role in regulating the reward system in your brain. So when ethanol raises the concentration of these happiness hormones, your brain interprets that as a reward. And that's when you feel it, the good mood, the euphoria, the social buzz. That's what you're chasing when you're sitting with friends on a Friday night. But there's more happening. Alcohol also stimulates the production of GABA, one of the most important inhibitory neurotransmitters in the brain, while simultaneously suppressing its counterpart, glutamate. GABA essentially calms your nervous system down. So when alcohol boosts GABA production, nervous system activity decreases. At moderate amounts, this makes you feel relaxed, anxiety fades, stress melts away. Those are the effects we want. That's why we reach for the glass. But, and this is important, with excessive consumption, all of these seemingly pleasant effects quickly flip. That feeling of slowing down turns into a complete loss of control over your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. I think most of us have experienced that at some point. And when it goes too far, your body activates defense mechanisms. Nausea, vomiting. That's not a bug, that's a feature. Your body is literally trying to protect you from further poisoning. So, if you ever feel the urge to throw up after drinking, let it happen. Your body is saving you. So, if alcohol is this toxic, why do we still want more? The answer lies largely in what's called addiction memory. And addiction is a very important word here. When a substance activates your reward system as reliably and as intensely as alcohol does, and it does this in virtually everyone, your brain stores that information fast. And from that point on, it demands regular resupply. Your brain basically goes, "That was amazing. When are we doing that again?" And here's what makes it worse. Over time, other sources of reward, other things that used to make you feel good, start losing their significance. The brain increasingly focuses on alcohol as the primary reward source. With regular consumption, actual structural changes start happening in your brain. Now, one important clarification first. Alcohol does not destroy brain cells from occasional use. That's a common myth. However, if someone drinks heavily over many years, the brain can physically shrink. That's called cerebral atrophy. But let me explain one specific structural change that's really fascinating. Your brain starts producing more glutamate receptors. Why? Because it's trying to compensate for the fact that alcohol keeps suppressing nervous system activity through GABA. So the brain creates more receptors to restore balance. Sounds clever, right? And it is. It's a classic feedback mechanism. We see this throughout the body. But here's the problem. Because the brain is now compensating, you need more alcohol to achieve the same relaxing effect. That's tolerance. You build it up. You need more and more. And if you think a higher tolerance protects you from the harmful effects of alcohol, it doesn't. That's a dangerous misconception. Alcohol is and remains a neurotoxin. It attacks nerve cells over time, and over years, it can permanently disrupt the communication between neurons. There's a saying that goes, "Where my liver used to be, there's now a minibar." Sounds funny. It's really not. Because alcohol is primarily broken down in the liver, this is where the toxic effects hit first and hardest. During the breakdown of ethanol, your liver produces acetaldehyde, a highly toxic intermediate product. This substance directly attacks liver cells and disrupts the liver's fat metabolism. The consequences? Increased fat deposits in the liver. The development of what's called a fatty liver, specifically, an alcoholic fatty liver. This is often the very first sign. When a doctor does an ultrasound and sees a fatty liver, that's frequently already a consequence of alcohol consumption. And if you continue drinking too much and too often, the liver becomes inflamed. It starts to scar. And that's when you develop liver cirrhosis. The restricted liver function then leads to increased toxin buildup within the liver itself. And that, in turn, significantly raises the risk for liver cancer. So, the typical progression is alcohol consumption leads to fatty liver, which leads to cirrhosis, which leads to more toxins, which leads to liver cancer. This next point probably won't surprise you. When we drink alcohol, our mouth esophagus, and stomach obviously feel it directly. The poison passes right through them. Long-term, this can trigger a chain reaction of pathological processes. It starts with alcohol attacking the mucus lining of the entire digestive tract, mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestines. This leads to inflammatory reactions. Inflammation of the esophagus, inflammation of the stomach, inflammation of the intestines, and very commonly, acute pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. That's a classic consequence of alcohol abuse. And to make matters worse, alcohol also increases the production of stomach acid. This further irritates the esophageal and stomach lining. You may have noticed this yourself: excess stomach acid, constant acid reflux, that uncomfortable burning feeling. That's the alcohol at work. So now you have two things happening simultaneously: chronic inflammation and a damaged mucous membrane that's now more vulnerable to toxic substances. Because the protective barrier is compromised, these two factors combined significantly increase the risk for throat cancer, colon cancer, and rectal cancer. Yes, alcohol causes cancer. Have you heard the rumor that moderate alcohol consumption is somehow good for your heart? Yeah, that's nonsense. This myth comes from research showing that certain compounds in red wine have anti-inflammatory properties and protect against free radicals. And that's actually true for those specific compounds. But here's the key detail: those protective substances come from the skin of dark grapes. That's where they originate, not from the alcohol. The alcohol itself has zero antioxidant effect. None. So if you want to benefit from those protective compounds, eat grapes, drink grape juice, skip the alcohol. Because what is certain is that the ethanol in red wine, just like in every other alcoholic beverage, has a damaging, not protective, effect on your heart. The cell-damaging properties of ethanol and the resulting inflammatory processes don't stop at your blood vessels. They get damaged too. And damaged blood vessels lead to calcification, which increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Alcohol increases your risk for heart attacks. Alcohol increases your risk for strokes. On top of that, even small amounts of alcohol cause a rise in blood pressure. You don't need to drink a lot for this to happen. The exact mechanism behind this is actually still not fully understood, but the effect is well documented. So, alcohol does a lot inside your body, and your liver isn't the only organ taking the hit. As you've seen, the mechanisms are complex. The effects on your brain, your cardiovascular system, your liver, your digestive tract, they're all significant. Alcohol is a poison. A socially accepted one, sure, but a poison nonetheless. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Your Body's Code. Drop a comment below. Let's discuss this together. Thank you for watching, and take care of yourself.